It's time to have a grown-up conversation about how teams are rewarded or not in the NCAA. And Karen Aston, head coach at UTSA, is here to do it with me. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A very happy Wednesday to you and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. Over 300,000 of you showed up in February alone. It's a short month, too. The way we show up for you 6 days a week. We are delighted that you join us for this journey. And it is, of course, not just me. It is the incredible team across the board at The Next, thenexthoops.com, where we cover the past, present, and future of women's basketball. Over 100 reported pieces every single month. Sign up, $9 a month, $72 a year. It all gets sent directly to your inbox. You support the incredible work being done, thenexthoops.com. And we cover every part of the women's basketball landscape. And I have, through the years that I have been doing this, had the opportunity to do that on multiple occasions in multiple ways with today's guest, Karen Aston, who is the head coach at UTSA. Those of you who are longtime listeners know Karen's been on the show before, multiple times. It also reflects the career she has built across different programs. And I think it's a really good opportunity for us to be talking about how NCAA teams are selected. So, Coach, welcome to the show. I just want to give people a sense of what happened this week first before we get into it. Um, your team at UTSA, in a way that, and I'm going to go ahead and say I told you so. Those who listened knew I said this would happen. Your program won one game before you came and took over at UTSA. You have gone year after year to 7 wins, 13 wins, 18 wins. And then this year, in what shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone, you guys went 26-4. You captured the AAC regular season title, went into the AAC conference tournament, fell to Rice in the AAC conference tournament. You look at the bracketology that's being done around the sport. UTSA is nowhere to be found. The idea is this one loss in the conference tournament changes the entire trajectory of a season. And so I had already been thinking about it in these terms before I saw your tweet last night, and I'm going to quote it directly. Can't understand why you aren't a shoo-in for NCAAs when you win the conference outright, period. Too many examples, needs to change. I just want to start by getting your thought. Expand on that. Talk to me about why you sent that out and why you feel that way.
Well, I just took a complete journey through not just this season, but as you just mentioned, this has been a 4-year process for this program, and to see the buy-in that we had and the group of people that put the energy into not just this season, but building into this season, down to retention and all of those things that you're really trying to sell in your program. And then, you have a really an absolute magical season that you want to build on. You don't want it to be just 1 year. And I think the way that you build on that is that, it's a learning experience of, okay, we did this and now let's go to the NCAA tournament and learn what that feels like. And so you hope to build a program instead of a team. Mm-hmm. And I think, unfortunately, when you have a year like this, sometimes that might be what happens to a program. And I don't want that to happen here. And I can understand now why there's so much frustration among teams that, and to be honest with you, I can understand why even some of the Power 4 teams are the coaches are talking about the conference tournaments.
Right.
And why there's weight put into it, and why you're having it, period. I definitely see both sides. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not just saying this because it's been this year. I thought Tulsa should have gotten in last year out of our league. They did not. I thought they had a very high profile player. I thought they had a tremendous year, and I was shocked that they didn't get in. They actually had a quad 1 win.
Right.
And when you look at our team this year and you look at the body of work and you look at, which I'm assuming no one has, I mean, we go to A&M our first game of the year and we have a lead and my starting point guard gets hurt and doesn't play anymore in the game. And we barely lose. And then, again, I understand where everybody's coming from. Okay, you need to win one of these games. I get that. Scheduling, I completely understand that. Sometimes you schedule teams, you think they're going to have a good year. Maybe they don't. It doesn't help you in the net. Scheduling across the board in your leagues is not comparable. I get all of that, but I do believe that there are too many examples this year, and I'm sure there's been every single year you've had the same type of conversation with coaches. But when you win a conference outright and you go through an 18-game grind and you lose one conference game and your best player didn't play in that game, I think, first of all, the emotional and physical toll going through those 18 games and trying to finish out what you're trying to get accomplished, having the emotional roller coaster of trying to finish it, and then you cut down a net and you have this emotional feeling of doing all of that, and then you have to turn around and travel to a conference tournament, maybe on short rest and short emotions, and then you've got to lock in and win 3 games in a row in 3 days, I think is a lot to ask young people to do. And then, the reward is not in front of them.
I want to talk about
it's hard for me to fathom.
Yeah, I mean, because that part's so interesting to me. And I'm coming at this, just full disclosure, from somebody who loves conference tournaments. I love the idea that a team can get hot at the right time and make a March run, and it gives you a second chance opportunity. Where I lose the understanding is the idea that that second chance should supersede what a team manages to accomplish over 4, 5, 6 months. And again, you go back to it and you say, all right, that's very exciting. You go win 3 games in 3 days or 4 games in 4 days, whatever it ends up being. But it's not any kind of real evaluation of how good a team is. And when we're looking at what the NCAA tournament is supposed to be about, it's supposed to be about allowing the best teams in the country to have a reward. To my mind, you want to keep the drama of a conference tournament. That's fine with me. I think we took sort of a half step toward it with the idea that, all right, the WBIT is a reward for winning your regular season title. To my mind, you could set up a scenario where the NCAA tournament gives an automatic bid if you win your regular season, which is a big deal. You want to keep the drama of a conference tournament. Conference tournament winner also gets a bid. And then you fill in at-large teams with who's got the best resume among the people who didn't do that in either of these 2 pressure cooker scenarios.
There's no question about that. And I even would go as far to say, okay, if you don't win it outright, last year we had a 3-way tie, and none of the 3 won the conference tournament. So, okay, look at who has the best record out of those 3 that had the 3-way tie when you get to that and take that one. But you're looking at 3 to 4 teams in different conferences that have all been upset, and all of them won it outright and had phenomenal years. And I think
Madison, UNLV, absolutely,
UNLV, Gonzaga. I'm blown away by the fact that I can ask these young people to start working out in June with the vision of a goal that they started trying to accomplish back in June. And you think they've accomplished it, and it's, in a matter of like the click of a button, we're no longer, even mentioned.
Right.
It's heartbreaking to me for the kids. I mean, Howard, I've been there. I've been to the tournament. I mean, my joy would have been out of let this particular team who paid the price, and I think showed resilience through 18 games. You know, I don't get it.
I want to.
I
We're going to talk more.
explain to them,
Yeah, right.
you know, that what I asked them to do since June, they're not being rewarded for.
It's not too late, and I'm hoping. It's interesting. I just recall last year, and we're going to get to break and talk more about it. But Columbia and Megan Griffith talked about this,
Yeah.
and she was very passionate about it. And then the NCAA made what I believe was the right call and included her as an at-large bid last year. So we'll talk more about that, because again, it goes back to who's being rewarded and for what with the NCAA tournament and what that all means. Also going to talk about Jordyn Jenkins, who you want to talk about continuity. That's a great story about there and about your program
Sure.
at large. Much more with Karen Aston at UTSA. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. But first, Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Wayfair, and your home should reflect your style. And with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a big home project, Wayfair has everything you need in one place, from cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves. Wayfair has it all, and take it from me, at prices that fit your budget. So head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. The app is super easy to use. My wife and I use it all the time. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Locked On Women's Basketball is also brought to you by TurboTax. And you got to understand, taxes for a long time was waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back, and if so, how much. And then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Taxes, though, today is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible, file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so you can get the most money back, guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Back here with Karen Aston, talking about not just UTSA and not just the program itself, but the bigger picture question of what does the NCAA tournament mean to people? And so you talked about this just before the break, about the fact that you have been there. I remember. And so you have a team that has worked hard, not just for 1 year, like you said, but in many cases for 4 years. One of the most heartbreaking parts of covering March is there's always a losing team, and there are tears, there are emotions, there's an end that comes with that. Having that end mean you're not rewarded for a season, and again, a season where, like you talked about the scheduling, I can't tell you this for sure, but I've spoken to other coaches in a similar situation to you. I'm willing to bet that as your teams have gotten better and better, it's gotten harder and harder to schedule non-conference. This nonsense of, oh, you should just go schedule whoever. They have to say yes too.
For sure.
You can't just
For
show
sure.
up at a building
I'll
and
give you an
play.
example. I have a young lady from Canada that I'm trying to just get close, you know, so try to play a game on the East Coast in New York somewhere next year, her senior year, and I can't find anybody that would schedule us, and it's a home game for them. So I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
It's a frustrating thing that doesn't seem to have an answer at an individual level, that you as a coach are limited in that way. I just wonder, because, and you'll forgive me for this sort of digression, but I just think people ought to know your connection to your players always lasts well beyond when they play for you. And they talk about you for years and years to come. Ariel Atkins, whenever you come up when we cover her at the WNBA level, and a smile comes to her face talking about you and what you meant to her. So I say all that as preface for how did you prepare to have that conversation with your kids after the loss? And, how do you navigate just that as a human being?
Yeah, that's the tough part is you don't know. You never know why you show up and have a bad day when you've been consistently able to string along, so many wins and so many we won so many games in so many different ways. And you show up at the conference tournament and you don't look anything like yourself. And so as a coach, like I'm just backtracking, thinking like, what, should I have done this? Should we, you know how it is. You're going to question everything every decision you made leading up to the tournament. I don't know that I have a direct answer for that, but I mean, I will say that we had the conversation and I told them, that I didn't know if we were a lock, and that's, I'll be honest with you. I think it's really disappointing for kids to hear when you go 17-1 in conference play and you only lost 2 games and both were to Power Fours. And I understand that they weren't at the top of the conference that either one of them played in, but those were the only 2 games we lost other than one conference game without Jordyn.
Right.
It was hard to gauge whether they were going to even understand that. And I mean, just to be blunt about it, some of them, I mean, my young kids don't even know they need to experience it, and that's the building blocks for a program is you get in and you show them what that feels like. And you give them the opportunity to say, okay, this is everything we did was worth it.
Right.
And you get that experience of going, and then now you're building something because now they understand what that feels like and what's the hoopla about, because I think we think kids know. I mean, the majority of young people are watching clips. You'd be shocked at how many don't know what the selection show is.
Right.
I think we think because we live and breathe this, that they know what this is all about. And so the only way for them to know is to live it. And I'm so disappointed, that there's a chance they're not going to live that in the way that they want to. Now we're going to watch it and, we're going to live the disappointment if we don't get in, and we're going to look at the WBIT bracket and we're going to be excited to go to that if that's where we go. And, but I also I understand these are magical moments that, they come and go.
I know you have experience with that too, having taken that UNC Charlotte team very deep into I guess it was then the WNIT semis, I think. I mean, I know
Yeah.
you won a bunch of games that year, but being able to have that kind of postseason success, I would imagine will also help to reinforce what you guys are doing. From my perspective, there's no real better way to measure buy-in, in my view, than you look at how a team performs on the boards. And, your team and listeners, you probably should know this, does not have a lot of 6'7" kids on the team. I think your tallest is 6'2" in your rotation. Is that right?
Yeah, that's probably about right.
You guys are tops in the nation, not in the conference, in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage. You grab almost 44% of the available offensive rebounds, which is just an absurd statistic. Are there going to be ways you're going to look for that kind of buy-in wherever your postseason journey takes you? Or are there kind of other ways that you're able to know that your team is doing what you're hoping they are supposed to be doing when it gets to that point?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think you always relate it to practice. And I mean, I'll be interested to see when we come back. I mean, we obviously gave them a couple of days off and we'll get back to work on Friday. And I will be interested to see their approach, and Jordyn, Nina, Sid, the older players, are they able to help the young ones understand that this is an experience that they can't get back? It's their last time together, and are they going to value that and be who they are? And that was sort of something we talked about all year long. I mean, talking about the rebounding, we were number one in the league in defense.
Mm-hmm.
We were top, I think, 3 in free throw percentage, top 3 in assist turnover ratio. I mean, there were so many things we were so good at. And we weren't good at any of that, in the conference tournament. So I don't think it's like they have to come here and be something that they're not, but they have to be who they are. And I'm interested to see, are they going to come back in here and be who they are? I'll be excited if they are, because I think we can make a run in whatever we do.
No doubt about it in my mind.
That's always the unknown when you come back from the conference tournament break. And I think that goes for everybody. I mean, everybody has a reset button that you push after a conference tournament, and some teams can really push it. And some don't find that magic again, and you never know. You never know. You try to find ways to do that for sure.
It's almost like the conference tournament is a one-off. That should not be the definitive notion of who makes the NCAA tournament, you might say.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, even with our league, I mean, the fact that, it hasn't happened in 3 to 4 years, the 1 seed has gotten beat, I think lets you know that the grind of our league is, I mean, everybody talks, South Carolina talks about it all the time, the grind of the SEC. I mean, you could go down the line with all the P4 schools, how the grind is, but I mean, ours is too.
Right.
And I think it's a reflection of that the 1 seed gets knocked off after going through the gauntlet and winning. And it's happened, I think, 4 years in a row now in this league. So I just think it's really hard for somebody to tell me that our league is not a 2-bid league. I have a hard time with that. And it used to be when UConn was in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was, to be quite blunt, it was the reason I was so excited about going to the American. It wasn't like I was disrespectful to Conference USA or I didn't, but this was a consistent 2-bid league.
Right.
And I think it still is.
And a system by which both conference tournament champion and regular season champion get an auto bid makes these 2-bid leagues and rewards it. So anyway, I'm hoping there's a better way forward, and certainly there's been enough change in the NCAA in recent years that I'm not going to assume the status quo at all. But I do have to get to break, and then I want to talk about Jordyn Jenkins because her legacy was something that was honestly the first thing I thought of when I was thinking about this week. So back with Karen Aston in just a moment. Howard Megdal here. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Skims for Men. So look, Skims has been around for a long time. We've had it for women. Now Skims is making underwear for men as well. Whatever size you're looking for, whether it's the cotton boxer brief, the stretch 5-inch boxer brief, there's even cotton 3-inch, stretch even Skims cotton brief, period. Whatever you need in order to feel comfortable throughout your day, Skims has underwear for men that allow you to get it. Go ahead and shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you're looking for a perfect gift for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever, also available at skims.com. Back here with Karen Aston, UTSA head coach. And we've had Jordyn Jenkins on the program. She's somebody who's been through significant adversity, missed nearly a full year due to injury, made the decision to come back. And I know part of why she wanted to come back was to fight for the chance to go to the NCAA tournament. So if you just kind of take me through what her career has meant coming and playing with you to you, and B, how much the nation would benefit from the chance to see her play, because that was literally my first reaction in our group, Slack at the Next, when I saw the score was, oh, the nation really needs to see Jordyn Jenkins play.
Yeah, I mean, she's just so special in so many ways. I mean, there's no question that she has a unique skill set and feel for the game that is pretty natural. I mean, she does some things that you don't teach. Her footwork is great, and just her efficiency is off the charts. But what's been fun, to be honest with you, and I know you know Jordyn, so you'll love hearing this, is just how much she's evolved as a leader on our team, and how much she's enjoyed the process of growing her own self as a person and as a teammate. It's been really, really enjoyable for me as a coach to see someone that, when she arrived here, wasn't sure about a whole lot, and then she went through the adversity of kind of finding herself again, and then the injury, and now she's found herself again. And so just going through all of that and seeing how much she's put into it. I mean, I agree with you. It's a travesty if everybody in the country doesn't have a chance to see her play. For many, many reasons. Again, her talent level. I mean, she's a pro. There's no question about it. She is a pro, and she'll have a lengthy career. And I think that, it's kind of interesting because I think she knows that. And I think that that's what made her really sad about what happened on Monday, was that I think she knows she has chances to do other things in basketball, but I think she knows that was that moment with that group. Some of those people may not.
Yeah. And
I think it was as much a part of who she is that she wanted her teammates to get a chance to experience that. And that's kind of who Jordyn is in a nutshell. I mean, she cooks for them all the time. She bakes things for her teammates. She bakes them for us. I mean, what kid bakes for their coaches anymore? There's really a lot of special things about her, and I'm going to miss her. I think she's, I can't even state how important she's been to the evolution here of not just, not the wins and the losses and all that. I mean, I'm talking about the fan base. I mean, we broke an attendance record. People have just, they have T-shirts with her face on them. And I mean, it's just, people fell in love with watching her play the game in our community. And I know that there's a bunch of little girls out there in San Antonio that she's given a vision of what you can be. And I think that's really special, because that didn't exist when we got here.
Yeah.
So she's been not only just a part of helping this team grow, but she's been a part of helping the sport grow in this community. And it's just an example of her buying into my vision. Like, she wanted to please, and she wanted to do what we set out to do. And I think that's unusual for kids nowadays. And I think it's hard with all the noise, and she's just a very unique individual.
And she chose to come to your program. She chose to come to your program as a transfer. There's a line she said to me when she was on our podcast. I think it's a really good framework for where the program is and where it's going. A lot of different coaches were reaching out to me, she said, but Karen Aston reaching out to me was different, and her recruiting process was different. I felt her vision. I felt that she wanted what was going to be best for me. And it's exactly the same now, 2 years later. She cares about everybody on the team. When you think about the impact that you've had, that you're having, certainly wins are a way in which we can measure any career. And you have many, many of them, well over 300 in your career. But I just wonder, for you, when you sort of think back on what this season has been, what this team has been, how much and in what ways do you feel like it's impacted you, and you've been able to impact them as people, which is why I know you do this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely why you do it. And I think you hit it on the head. We've impacted each other. This particular group of people, staff included, has been remarkable. And I say that this is why, I mean, again, I go back to why I'm so disappointed, because, you start in June and you get to March, and there can be so many distractions along the way. There can be so many bumps in the road. There can be so many wheels fall off, and you have to figure out how to put them back on. And this has just been a group of people that have truly wanted, like, the vision to come true. And that just, it's rare, and I've had a couple of those, and you mentioned that Charlotte team, but that was one of them. Ironically enough, the year before we had gone to the NCAA tournament, and that following year, the year that we went to the Final Four of the WNIT, those two teams were pretty remarkable. And then obviously I had a couple of really, really special teams at Texas. They all kind of have the same vibe, because it takes that, it takes a group of people that are interested in the goal and the vision instead of themselves. And that's just not always the case. It's just the way sports is, which is, again, we've impacted each other. I mean, these kids have impacted me enormously because of their buy-in. And I would say the same thing about the staff.
Well, I would be remiss not to point out the link between those UNC Charlotte teams, between the Texas teams, between this team, is the head coach, Karen Aston. And Karen, I'm always delighted to get the chance to chat with you, to have you join us. We'll do it again very soon, I hope. I also want to thank our listeners for making us your first listen every day. Good news for you, there's an upgrade in the host chair tomorrow. Gigi Spear will host instead of me, and she'll be talking to a player from each of the four unrivaled teams as they barrel toward the playoffs. So until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Wednesday. And to the NCAA, get this right. Put UTSA in. That's all.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.